Valentine's Day. One of our commissioners was nice enough to give us all a flower. Thank you, Ed, that's very thoughtful.
Thanks, Ed.
So first order of business is citizens' time. Is there anyone here for something that is not on the agenda tonight? Okay, thank you. Next is approval of minutes of the January 24th meeting. Did the meeting minutes seem all right?
Yes.
Okay. May I have a motion to approve?
Second?
All in favor? I am abstaining because I wasn't at that meeting. I did, however, watch the video of the meeting, so I am able to vote on the Terry Ave issue tonight. Okay, next up, item number 4 is to ratify an emergency certification at Mill Street at Sandy Brook for the Town of Burlington DPW Water Department to repair a water main. Is there anyone here for that? No. John, you wish to say what that's about, please?
Sure. So, well, it's fairly self-explanatory. So, water main broke. Unfortunately, the location was right near Sawmill Brook on Mill Street. I was actually alerted to it by one of the neighbors who.
Shall remain nameless.
So we went out and took a look and contacted DPW, and they got the road repaired fairly quickly. Got it. It's tough this time of year, but they got it patched and paved and everything within a couple days. So all in all, it wasn't too bad.
Okay. So do we need to vote or anything, or?
Just to ratify.
Okay. So then, I have a motion to ratify the emergency certification for the work done at Mill Street and Sandy Brook.
So moved. Second?
Okay, all in favor? 4-0-0. All right, that was easy enough. Next, item 5A, a request for determination of applicability at 14 Independence Drive. Good evening. I have to read the official notice first. Have a seat, please. So notice of public meeting. Notice is hereby given that the Town of Burlington Conservation Commission is holding a public meeting tonight in the main hearing room at the Town Hall, during which time a request for determination of applicability filed by GRH Homes LLC will be acted upon by the Conservation Commission. The Commission will take all information relating to the proposed demolition of an existing single-family dwelling and the construction of a new single-family dwelling within the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands at 14 Independence Drive in Burlington, Mass. And thereafter, we'll issue a determination of applicability. The application is being heard pursuant to the Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Burlington Bylaw, Article 14. And all of the application material may be viewed at the Burlington Conservation Office. Good evening. If you would introduce yourself, please, and give a brief statement of what you're seeking tonight.
I'm Greg Hickox. We proposed that Lot 14 Independence, want to tear it down and build a new home.
Okay,
So, here to address that, I guess.
all right,
Conservation.
very good. We can take it from there. Okay, go on, Eileen.
Well, as Greg explained, the proposal is to demolish an existing house and build a somewhat bigger house in approximately the same area. There is wetland off to the right-hand side, if you're facing from Independence Drive, on the neighbouring property. There's a drop between their property and the neighbouring property, so any potential work would have to be protected. Would have to protect that property. The proposed house is approximately 80 feet from the flagged wetland, and there's a general slope from the back right of the property towards the wetland. One issue or just question that we had is that when we went out on site, there were a lot of trees that were marked as if they were going to be taken down, which it wasn't mentioned in the
Sure.
application, so maybe you could just mention
So just give you a little, the piece of property has been really not taken care of. There's stuff over to the left, you can see stuff overgrown. We brought 2 tree companies out, and of course we didn't touch a tree, I know better. But we got advice from them. If you come to the front, there's 3 big oaks, we're gonna leave 1 big oak up, but the other 2 are gonna be where the driveway is gonna come. The house wasn't conforming, so we gotta move the house over. It was on the lot line.
Oh, okay.
And the gas and water were actually in the neighbor's yard. So there's a lot of work, cleanup we gotta do there. We're gonna make it how conform. In the back, there's ledge right behind the house. And there's trees, a lot of trees that are growing there that both Marquis Tree and Arbor suggested we take them down. And we try not to take down, we only try to take down what we have to. So we went through with them, there's a 100-foot pine that we didn't put in the original plans to take down. They said, look, this is gonna scare people, you gotta take it down. And what we'll do too is, I always, when we do these houses, I put back trees.
Okay.
I tell the neighbors, I said, look, we're gonna take it down, stuff is overgrown, it hasn't been taken care of. I plan on putting a nice row of big arborvitaes to the right, and we'll make it, we always put stuff back there. We're only really taking down, the yard is not, it's been, if you notice to the left of the neighbor's house, it was kind of neglected, they were dumping stuff there. They're taking debris and they were dumping it there, so we wanna clean that up and just make it look right, because it's gonna be a big, beautiful house there.
Okay.
And as we know the rules, we'll definitely respect and make sure we keep away from the wetlands.
So I mean, can you, I didn't get to see the site, so in the back where you're talking about where there's a pine and there are a lot of trees, what other kind of species are back there?
I don't remember what trees are back there, do you?
Because I have a lot of ledge and I have
Specifically?
trees, I mean, so.
Remember what was back there?
So in the ledge area is well outside the buffer zone. So
Okay.
we didn't really go back in that corner. We stayed really on the left-hand
I'm
side.
just, so in the back area of the tree, so that's where the trees are, they're way back? Or,
No, they're all over the lot.
Right.
Including in the buffer zone.
okay, and are there various species?
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
some
there's a
hardwood.
row of, were they hemlock or arborvitae?
Hemlocks.
Hemlock, so there's a
Hemlocks,
row of
yeah.
hemlock. And then there's some large trees,
There is.
size
You were
trees.
saying the oaks out front.
And there's some large trees on the side as well.
Yeah, there's some large trees that seem to they could be a big problem for us. If you bought the house, they're somewhat, some of them are dying, one of the big trees there. And that pine is a weak-rooted tree, it's real close to the house,
I don't even remember the pine, to tell you the truth.
There's a big pine when you go directly to the right there.
It's to the right.
But there's some hardwoods back there as well?
Back in here, there's,
Water, putting that on the property. So the two that are coming down out front, they're being affected because of that.
okay,
Driveway and
the driveway, yep. Okay. All right, let's see if we have other comments from the commissioners. Start with you, Ed.
Okay, I didn't realize we had ledge back there. Is that large berm where the ledge is?
Yeah.
Behind the house?
All the stuff is growing over there, yeah.
Yeah, so that could be a threat to the root system, not being able to go down, so.
If they're mature trees, though, they've worked around that,
They're not big trees right on that,
Right on Lodge there is.
big around. Okay. That's all I have.
Jennifer?
Is there a way to reconfigure the new driveway so you don't have to take down all three oak trees?
We're only taking down
He's
two of
only
those
two.
trees.
Or you're only taking down two?
Yeah.
So you don't have to take down two?
I want to leave all of them up, but the two have to come because they're going to be right in the way of the driveway. So, but we're still going to have one big oak there. And when those two are gone, that'll do better, get more sun, more exposure. That'll become even a bigger tree there. Because the two are blocking it right now.
All right. Gail?
So I guess one of the concerns, again, I haven't seen it, so I'm being ignorant in terms of my discussion about the trees, but with the oak trees, that, I don't know how close they are together in the driveway and the construction, whether, the one that you're trying to protect, that maybe you could get some advice of how best to protect the root system, because oftentimes when there's construction, especially close to a tree, that tree ends up dying because of roots being buried and things like that. And then, I guess, if there are, any hardwoods in the back, it might be nice to leave, a couple, rather than taking them all down. Arborvitaes are kind of, they're not really trees. They provide some wildlife cover, but they're not the same thing as a big canopy tree. So, I guess that's my only comments.
Gail, if you've gone to the house where the arborvitaes are, they're actually growing on the house.
Right, yeah.
They're overgrown, they haven't been taken care of. They're actually they're covering the foundation.
No, I'm not telling you to keep
Yeah.
those. You said you were gonna plant some.
Some of the back, yeah.
Yeah, as a replacement, but those aren't really kind of a replacement for a tree, is what I'm saying. That it would be nice to, whatever you're planning, to try to replace some, if you can't keep any of those trees in the back, any hardwoods, to actually put some actual trees in, to replace what's lost.
We put some blue spruce on the last one over on Maryville. We're not gonna put
In fact, we put 5 spruces. that
Okay.
Nobody requested us to. We put 2 blue and 3 greens in the
They were
back of the,
8 to 10 feet tall, too, they weren't little trees.
Okay,
Okay.
because we want it to look, we want it to look beautiful. We don't
Sure.
want it to be all bare in the back. We're gonna figure out when the lot's clean, to put more trees back where we can.
Okay, good, I'm glad to hear that. Personally, I wouldn't look at a house that doesn't have a tree. I'm really a tree fan, and I think that adds to the house. I'm glad to see you leaving one out front, because I love a tree out in front of a house. In the jurisdictional area, which is inside of the, to the left of the 100-foot offset on the drawing, in the back corner, that left corner, there was a big hardwood tree back there that looked perfectly healthy to me, and it's not really near the house. It was almost in the
Yeah, I think I know what
furthest
you're
corner.
talking about.
Yeah, that one is, to me, it would be a strong candidate for keeping, if you can
We could
justify.
definitely revisit it.
Okay.
I do remember they both mentioned it's kind of 50/50, but,
Okay.
so when you take the other stuff, it could die, but we could leave it, that one.
Okay.
It's not too close.
All right, so, any other comments?
so there is gonna be a trench along that outer part of the driveway, is that correct?
Yes, the left side was
The left side? And how wide is it?
2 feet wide.
Oh, there it is, that's right, yeah.
And the trench all the way around the house will capture all of the runoff, the rooftop runoff. Okay. Any, there's not really much change to the existing grading behind the house or anything? Some out front, but you're gonna be bringing in fill or?
But we're gonna fill in some spots. We're not gonna dramatically change the
Okay.
grade of the backyard, yeah.
John, do you think it's not much of it's a little bit of a slope, and you said that it grades down. Do you think the wattles are enough there for? Okay.
We have a draft, and
Yeah,
we
for
proposed
bales.
bales
Okay.
back there instead.
All right, then, if there's no more comments, we'll go over, we have a draft determination of applicability, and it's a negative determination, which means if you agree with it and we all agree to it, that nothing else will be needed to be submitted. So we'll review it now, the staff will go over it with you.
The applicant proposed to demolish an existing single-family dwelling and construct a new single-family dwelling within the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands. Several large trees and many smaller trees were proposed to be removed within the buffer zone. The closest point of the dwelling is about 80 feet from the BVW, with a limit of work about 50 feet from the wetland. We did not formally approve the delineation of the wetlands. Going on to the actual conditions, which are on the next page. Most of them are just as standard, so I'll just read some of them that are particularly pertinent. Number 2, prior to beginning any construction on site, sediment barriers shall be installed and inspected by conservation staff. You're to use hay bales and sediment fence where you show the wattles currently on your plan, and you can use 9-inch wattles across the front of the lot.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. Dispose of all construction demolition debris off-site in a legal manner. Stockpile your materials judiciously where you can't run off into the street or towards the wetlands. Keep the roadway clear daily. No filling or grading on the property beyond what is approved for the work. If you're going to change that, then you need to come back and talk to us. Driveway runoff shall not be pitched to run off into the street. It should be directed to a 2x2-foot stone trench as shown on the plan. Rooftop runoff shall be indicated as shown on the application plan, drip edge trenches. And any trees over 20 feet in height in the buffer zone that are removed shall be replaced 1-to-1 with native species approved by the Conservation Department. And the other two are just the standard ones that we can come and take a look on the site. And we won't sign off until, on an occupancy permit until we've established permanent cover and we have established that the rooftop and driveway runoff is as described in the conditions. Okay?
All right, you have any questions about those conditions? No? Okay, anything else from the commission? Yes.
So you need to check with us on the tree species. Blue spruce are nice trees, but they're not native to New England. They're native to,
So those are the ones just within
Pockets.
100-foot wetlands?
So anything that's over 20 foot, we take out of that, we replace with something else.
right.
Yeah,
Native.
native, so we'll check with ones we can get. And you're gonna pay for those, John? How does this work? You can see it in the fine print. Let me get my
I think
glasses.
it comes out of what you make from the house.
Oh, no, we're just enhancing the quality of life. We're not making any profit.
We're gonna sell flowers to raise funds to help you
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, it's only like $5,000 here. It goes to buying more conservation.
Okay, anything else from the commission? If not, then can I have a motion to issue a negative determination of applicability for the application at 14 Independence Drive?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? 400. You are all set?
Thank you for
Good
your
luck
time.
with your project. And thank you for not cutting trees until we talked to you, and you came to us. I appreciate that. All right, next, item 5B is a request for determination of applicability for 1 Maryvale Road. Is there someone here for that? Please come up while I read the notice. Notice is hereby given that the Town of Burlington Conservation Commission will hold a public meeting tonight, during which time a request for determination of applicability filed by James Tabor will be acted upon by the Conservation Commission. Commission will take all information relating to the proposed demolition of an existing single-family dwelling and the construction of a new single-family dwelling within the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands and a riverfront area of a locally regulated stream at 1 Maryvale Road in Burlington, and will thereafter issue a determination of applicability. The application is being heard pursuant to the Wetlands Protection Act and Burlington Bylaw Article 14. The application may be viewed at the Burlington Conservation Office. Good evening.
Good evening.
If you could introduce yourself, please.
Tabor Jr.,
Okay. Senior, okay,
keeping it easy for you.
very good. Would you like to say anything before we start? Floor is yours.
No, we're
Okay.
just, the demolition of the house, demo the house, put up a brand new one.
I live right around the corner, and I would love to see that house go away.
You're not the first person to say that, actually, from that street, so.
Okay, now let's talk about what you're gonna do. How are you gonna do that? Okay, staff have comments on this, please?
Sorry, John just had something to show me. So again, this is another tear down and rebuild, like the Mr. Tabor said. There's an existing low, possibly single-family house, although it looked like it might be two-family, which they're proposing to demo and put up a fairly significantly larger structure, which will be set a little bit further back. There, again, there's wetlands off the property, sort of on the left-hand side towards going down Maryvale Road. The wetlands were not flagged, but they're probably, do you remember the distance? Something like within, well,
It
they're
was
within
within 100.
100 feet of the edge of the house, say, something like that. There's also an unnamed stream that's maybe 150 feet away from the house that will affect this application as well. It's a fairly flat lot. We are not, oh, sorry, there's a gas easement as well on the left-hand side, which just indicates that they can't go any further over into that part of the lot. And they're also proposing to take down 2 structures that are closer to the wetland on the site.
There's 2 small sheds in the back.
Okay. And are the wetlands that are to the left, they off the property or?
Off the
they're
property.
Off the property, so, okay. So it's clearly more
Behind
than.
it, behind it,
Pardon?
the behind, wetlands,
Here, I think.
There's
they near the easement.
off to the north,
Yeah, they're sort of in the gas easement on,
yeah.
beyond
And
the
it's
property.
Beyond that.
The stream's not in our,
So it is,
It
it's a
is,
regulatory
okay, it
stream
is.
under the
It is a
bylaw.
regular stream.
right.
Okay, let's have comments from the commission. Gail?
So, this is within 200 feet of the stream, right? John, it's within 200 feet of the stream?
I think it's about 150 feet from the stream, is that what you measured?
Yes, it's about 150 feet or so from the stream.
So all work would be in the outer
Outer
right
riparian.
area? Okay.
Correct.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
So so there's no need to grade here, is that correct?
It's a flat lot.
Okay, and yeah, I know the lot. And is there any underground, like oil storage or anything like that here? Oil tank?
above ground oil tank, which we had taken out by Comtank.
Okay. And what's this line in the back of this property? Is that the property line, the one with the cross marks on it? What's that supposed to indicate?
The zoning offset,
Is it?
is
I
that
don't
what you
know.
mean?
No, there's a little gray line with
Yeah,
hatch mark.
with X's on it,
That's a
behind the
fence.
sheds.
Fence.
Is that a fence?
That's a fence, okay.
Across the back, okay. Is that
No,
fence
this is good.
being removed or staying?
There's actually two fences, one right beside each other, so one's very ugly and it's on our side, so we'll probably just take that down, put a new fence up.
Okay.
And so there's a stream on the other side of the fence then?
No, there's
Stream is
another
far
house.
away.
Oh, okay. So it's the one that goes over to the, yeah, okay, I know where it is. All right, yep. Okay, okay.
All right. Ed?
Are we referring to the tree that we saw in the back here? Are we referring to that tree when I heard you say tree? There's a large tree
Okay.
where the house is proposed to go back further than the
It's a
existing one.
large pine tree.
There's one big tree right there. Wouldn't
Close
that
to where
be
the
in the way
proposed
of the
deck
house
is.
going up?
No, it's almost against the fence.
Yeah, I would say, it's pretty, the lot is pretty clear, so I don't even know what pine tree you're talking about, that's how
Yeah, no,
off the,
it's
off the
not-
beach trail it is.
Pretty much the only tree on the property.
Down by the sheds, okay, yeah,
It's next to the sheds, and yeah, no, that's,
that will stay.
yeah.
No, I'm off on the other side. I'm actually looking at this side here.
Oh, in,
Going backwards with this new proposed house, there's a huge clump of trees right there.
There's one large tree.
One
Close to where
pine
the
tree
deck
near
is.
the deck,
The deck will be,
a large pine tree.
does that stay?
it's not even ringing a bell to me, to be honest.
Just wondering if that's gonna
Okay,
impede the
stay.
new structure. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, okay, before we did anything, I would obviously come and talk to you guys, absolutely. For some reason, it's not even ringing a bell. that
It's
there was-
probably very close to the property line. It's near the fence.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, so if that's the one that he's talking about, it's near the fence.
It's near the fence, and I don't believe it's gonna be in our way, so we're not gonna touch it.
That's the question.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah. Sorry.
All right. Jennifer?
I don't have any questions.
Okay. But if you do take a tree down within this riverfront area, then, you know, we would, I think it says in the proposal, the draft, that, you know, you would have to mitigate and replace with something.
Absolutely.
Correct.
Yeah. Now Reading, excuse me, I'm sorry
Yep.
for my ignorance in Burlington. Reading has like a thing where you take a tree down and you give them money to put up a tree somewhere else. Would we be required to do that, or just plant one on the property itself somewhere?
We don't have such a thing.
On the property.
We thought about proposing it, you know, but in the
Okay.
future, but right now it's on the property.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And it can be anywhere on the property, within
Oh,
that
really?
same riverfront area. Yeah, it doesn't have to be exactly replacing the tree on site, the same site.
Well, probably not, except probably not in the gas easement.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm just noticing the proposed deck is going beyond the zoning offset. Are you going to be applying for a variance to do that?
So I actually checked with the inspector of buildings today, and he said, because it's an access, a legal access to the building, with stairs, that they allow that in a zoning setback.
Okay, so that is not an issue. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that you understood that.
Yeah, no,
Us
thank you.
approving this wasn't going to approve any zoning issues.
Yes, yep, thank you.
Okay. And the only other question I have is the driveway. This is a newly installed driveway. Is it going to pitch?
We're gonna pitch it over to and put a trench with
Crushed stone.
Okay,
so that it drains into not into the street,
We'll also have crushed stone going around the
going
foundation.
around the foundation for the roof block.
okay.
So I'm just gonna add, it would be nice to have that on the plan, because that's something that, you know, we expect to be in the finish, but also, you know, as residents move in, you know, there's a stone trench here that's supposed to be there, so we'd like to see that on the plan, I think.
Sure, yeah, absolutely, I can have Katie do that. Katie and Ray.
Okay, any other comments or issues? Then we have a draft negative determination of applicability be reviewed.
Okay, John pointed out to me that we put the wrong address right up under applicant. I had you living in Burlington, but you live in Billerica, so I'll fix that before it goes out.
Yeah, okay.
The applicant's address you're talking
yeah.
about? Okay.
Yeah. So as you heard me going through the previous one, we'll just go through the main ones that are relevant to you. So you're proposing to demolish an existing house and construct a 3,400 square foot single-family house. This includes moving and widening the driveway and removing 2 sheds. No tree removals were proposed. The work is within the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetation, wetlands, and the outer riparian riverfront of a locally regulated stream. The Conservation Commission makes no findings as to the exact boundary of the wetland resource, as the wetland was not on the property. Okay, so the conditions which are relevant to you. Again, you're to install sediment barriers around the whole property, including along Maryvale Road and Skilton. You can confer with us as to appropriate
Yeah, we would put a
erosion
silt
controls.
Fence with wattles.
Wattles. We're just gonna be starting to install tomorrow morning.
Great. Then you can call us to come and take a look at it. No stockpiling of soil or other materials within 50 feet of wetlands, but that won't be a problem. No tracking of sediments onto public roadways, again, to keep the roadway clean. No filling or grading of the property under this decision other than that shown on the plan. Rooftop runoff shall be infiltrated on the lot and not discharged into roadway or adjacent lots. Method of infiltration shall be reviewed and approved by the Conservation Department. You said it's going to be drip bed stone trench, so that's fine. The new driveway shall be pitched so that the runoff shall be directed to a stone infiltration trench or to a trench drain system, not to the street. You had already proposed that. And any trees over 20 feet in height in the riverfront area that are removed shall be replaced 2 to 1 with native species approved by the Conservation Department. There's a higher ratio in this case because it's riverfront rather than just bordering vegetated, the buffer zone bordering vegetated wetland.
Okay.
And no use of pesticides or fungicides within 100 feet of wetlands. And again, the next part is the same about, we need to sign off on an occupancy permit once we have confirmed that the grass is established and everything is as expected. Okay?
Okay, any other comments or issues? And may I have a motion to issue a negative determination of applicability for the work proposed at 1 Maryvale Road?
So there will be the additions to the plan, right? The trench and the, around the house and on the driveway.
The drainage, yes, the drainage structures.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure.
Just it's on the record, yeah. Okay, so with that modification, may I have a motion to issue a negative determination of applicability for the work being done at 1 Maryvale Road?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor? 400. Thank you very much. Good luck with the project. I look forward to seeing you. All right, now we are on item 5C, and that is for some reconstruction of a carport and to construct a new deck at 17 University Avenue. Okay, have a seat while I read this. Notice is hereby given that the, oh, that's the one I just read before this. Sorry, let's do this one, okay. That the Town of Burlington Conservation Commission will hold a public meeting tonight, during which time a request for determination of applicability filed by Dylan James of Patriot Custom Homes will be acted upon by the Conservation Commission. The Commission will take all information relating to the proposed reconstruction of a carport and construction of a 12-foot by 12-foot deck within the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands at 17 University Ave in Burlington, and will thereafter issue a determination of applicability. The application is being heard pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act and the Burlington Bylaw Article 14, and the application may be viewed at the Burlington Conservation Office. Good evening. Please introduce yourself and we will proceed.
For the record, my name is Mary Trudeau, and with me this evening is Dylan James of Patriot Custom Homes, who is the builder that will be working for the McBride family, who are the current tenants and occupants of the home at 17 University Avenue. This property is
Thank you. We'll start with comments, please.
Okay, so, I'd agree with Mary, it's a fairly minor project, and it's a good distance from the wetlands. So the stream is likely intermittent, almost certainly intermittent, and it is not shown on our regulatory streams map, so there's no riverfront area associated with it. So the resource area, most pertinent is probably bank, so the buffer zone to bank is the jurisdictional area. There's wetlands, but I think really the closest part of the work is to the bank of that stream. But it, like Mary said, it's 50 feet away. The work is minimal as far as earth disturbance. Sonotubes really don't disturb much.
Deck is on sonotubes also? Deck?
Yes, it is.
And they're proposing erosion controls around that area, so I have no concerns.
Okay. Then we'll go to the commissioners here. Jennifer?
You're not proposing to take down any trees or anything like that? No? Yeah, so it's pretty,
The yard is pretty much clear within the fenced
Yeah.
area, and then the trees down the lot are outside of the work area.
Okay. Ed?
No, nothing new. I'd say it's pretty minor work being done here. I'm impressed by the size of that property, though. Just in the whole direction of it, I haven't seen anything like that in a long time.
It goes a lot further back than it appears when you're standing there on the property. Okay, Gail?
No, just, the deck, is there just gonna be like gravel underneath it, or just on the grass? Okay, yep.
The roof line of the carport is not changing then, so there's no increase in area or drainage differences than what is currently existing? Okay. All right, so I don't have any other comments either, so we have a draft prepared that we can go over with you.
Okay, so the findings discuss the resource area, which I've already gone over. The work is about 50 feet from the DVW bank. We're not approving any resource areas as part of this, although we do agree that the bank flag locations look good. We didn't really look at the BVW flags for the purposes of this filing. Conditions are fairly standard. The first one is erosion controls, and they just need to be installed as shown on the approved plan. There's conditions about disposal of excavated soil, of which there should be minimal amounts. No stockpiling within 50 feet of wetlands. Once again, that should not be an issue with sonotubes. No tracking of sediments into the roadway. No filling or grading is permitted, and none was proposed. And then standard conditions about dumping in the wetlands, using chemicals, Conservation Commission's right of access to do inspections, and non-compliance.
So just to confirm, because of the distance from the wetland and the minimal disturbance, that the wattles are acceptable, and we don't need extensive...
And it's very flat as well.
Okay. All right, so any other comments or questions? If not, we have a motion to issue a negative determination of applicability for this work to be done at 17 University Ave.
So moved.
second?
All in favor? 4-0-0. Good luck. Thank you. All right, next up is item number 6, continued public hearing, notice of intent for 24 Terry Avenue. It's you again. BAPA Corporation, construct addition to a commercial building. Good evening, again.
For the record, my name is Mary Trudeau, and I'm representing Backup Corporation this evening. At our last hearing, there were a few modifications that the board asked to be made to the site plan, and I believe that Commonwealth Engineering has submitted those plans to the commission and updated the revision date as specified.
You didn't get a hard copy.
One issue that we talked about with the board at our last meeting was the status of the public hearing process. Did we want to keep the hearing open, or did we want to close it? There was a meeting this afternoon between planning board and the applicant, and it appears that the work that we have proposed in this notice of intent filing with the commission is going to stay the extent
said, we do have a new drawing that was given to us tonight that does show the changes we asked for, but it doesn't have a change revision date. It still says revision.
I know, we just noticed that after they brought it in yesterday, oh, I'm sorry, John, you were supposed to.
go ahead.
And we did get it electronically, but can you just drop us in?
He just changed it up last.
Can he maybe drop us in one day the file for the,
That's the same date we had on the previous unchanged one. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
the changes are on it, it was just really just the drawing dates didn't get changed.
Right.
Not the curb.
Yes, I
as
noticed
we-
that the changes are on it, but I expected to see a new revision date to make sure we are talking about the right revision
Yeah.
for the record. Okay, any other comments from the staff?
So the revision date will be 2/14/2019.
Very good. All right. Comments from the commissioners?
So you had really finished this up, and it was really, we didn't have a file number, I think,
Right.
at the last meeting. Yeah, so, I mean, we actually had a draft ready at the last meeting.
Right. I want to make sure I get the thing that I had my comments written. Yeah, we did get the DEP file number. I thought I had some other comments written somewhere. Here we go. So we now have a drawing showing the full extent of the sloped granite curving that we asked for.
Correct.
And the last meeting voted that the riverfront improvement was sufficient, so we still agree with that. Were the flags verified? That was one of the items from the last meeting.
I never did get to that, no.
Okay, that you don't have much concern about that?
No.
Okay, very good. Then we have a draft, let me find my draft here. A draft of the permit. So let's go over it, please.
Okay. So the findings, the work is commercial building within the 100-foot buffer zone bordering vegetated wetlands and also riverfront to our locally regulated streams. It's actually within the riverfront of 2 regulated streams. The document references reflect the revision date of the plan that we received today, not the plan that the date that you have in front of you, so that's up to date in your decision. So the work would be within the riverfront area of 2 unnamed streams that are tributaries to Sandy Brook, regulated under the bylaw, also within the 100-foot buffer zone of the BVW, also within the Zone 2 of a public water supply. So the work is considered a critical area as far as the stormwater regulations go. The location of the areas is shown in the reference plans. Although the commission generally agrees with their location, because of the time of year, basically, we're not actually formally approving the resource areas location. Net riverfront alteration for the project is 923 square feet, which is much less than 10% of the total riverfront area. Stormwater management, we go through the standards. So this project, even though it is completely redevelopment, because the work is within a paved area, they're meeting the stormwater standards for the addition. Other findings, the parcel does have bordering land subject to flooding on the parcel, and if you look at the FEMA map, it appears that the building is in the floodplain, but they did a topographic survey, and this section of stream does have an elevation, a FEMA elevation, so they're clearly doing work that's above the floodplain elevation, so they're not in bordering land subject to flooding. That's pretty much it for the findings. We'll go through the bylaw conditions while we're still here. So, condition 2 is a proposed performance guarantee of $15,000. And then the other conditions, bylaw conditions, are standard, including the last 2 are really regarding what needs to be done to get a certificate of compliance and an occupancy permit. Then on to the order of conditions under the Wetlands Protection Act. WPA 1, page 1 is all standard conditions. Once again, the plan references are all up to date. Page 2, standard conditions, pre-construction. We require pre-construction meeting on site with the applicants with all the required information, including copies of the recorded order, the submittal of the bond. On to condition or erosion control conditions on page 3. We're requiring, obviously, erosion controls around the perimeter of the work. Let's see, I think we required hay bales, wattles with permission from us of at least 12-inch diameter. No dewatering on site without a prior approval and an approved dewatering plan. No stockpiling within 50 feet of the wetlands or 100 feet of the bank of the streams, unless covered or encircled in hay bales. Condition 36 is about keeping the street swept daily. 37, protecting catch basins with silt sacks or equivalent. Pollution control conditions are all standard conditions. Inspection monitoring conditions, 47, we're requiring weekly reports from a PE or a wetland scientist approved by this Conservation Department. Page 5. Okay, so there's stormwater structures being installed as part of this project, including the removal of a manhole and the installation of a proprietary structure, so that has to be witnessed, as does the infiltration system by the civil engineer. 50 is about the adherence to the O&M plan. 51 is a requirement to post snow dumping signs where we don't want the snow dumped, which we discussed at the meeting, and I think is shown on the plan. 52 is about the sloped granite curbing, which we discussed and has been added to the plan. 53 is about no invasive plants. 54 is about the plantings, which are shown on the plan, all native species of shrubs. 55, no pesticides. 56, no dumping of mulch, sediment, whatnot into the wetlands. 56 is the condition about getting a certificate, what they need to do to get a certificate of compliance.
Okay, any questions on those?
These were as expected.
Very good. I hear that. Any further comments or concerns? Very good. In that case, could I have a motion to close the hearing?
So moved. Second.
All in favor? That's 400. Could I have a motion to accept the findings?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? That's 400. Could I have a motion to approve the order of conditions under the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act and the Burlington Bylaws, Article 14?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? That's unanimous. And finally, could I have a motion to approve a cash performance guarantee of $15,000?
Second.
All in favor? There we go. We're all set. Thank you.
Have a good evening.
We are moving paper tonight. Oops. I do need my... Okay, now we are on to item 7. Public hearing, notice of intent for 38 Sunset Drive. Come up and have a seat while I read the formalities. Notice is hereby given that the Town of Burlington Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing tonight in the main hearing room at the Burlington Town Hall. The purpose of the hearing is to take all information relating to a notice of intent filed by Robert and Lauren Iannacci?
Iannacci.
Iannacci.
That's pretty close.
I tried. For construction of an addition to a single-family dwelling at 38 Sunset Drive in Burlington. The proposed work would be within the riverfront area and the 100-foot buffer zone of bordering vegetated wetlands pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, the Wetland Protection Act, and Burlington Bylaw Article 14. The Commission will review all information relative to this application and thereafter may issue an order of conditions. This application may be viewed at the Burlington Conservation Office. Good evening. Please introduce yourselves for the record.
My name's Thomas Brady. I'm here working with the applicants, Robert and Lauren.
Robert Iannacci, the owner of 38 Sunset Drive.
Lauren, I'm actually the other owner.
Very good. Okay. So, you have anything you'd like to say before we begin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're here tonight in front of you for a small, modest addition to a single-family house at 38 Sunset. Have any of the commission members had a chance to take a look at the site perchance?
Yes. There were
Okay.
several of us there.
So you're aware of the site. It's a kind of your typical single-family home, as most of us reside in. I'm not too far away myself. And the Iannaccis have a growing family, so, which is great. They're looking to get some additional space for the family themselves. The work is almost entirely, with a very small portion of it, within the inner riparian zone. As you saw when you were out there, it's currently a grass turf lawn with a modest slope towards the back. I'm sure you noted the stone wall at the back, which is a clear demarcation between what's the active yard area, and then that drops down into a very, very small patch of upland, a little bit of BVW, and then we're into the perennial stream right in the back. The work itself is, the addition, the footprint is 918 square feet. What we have done is we took our plan and we assumed a 10-foot buffer all the way around the proposed structure for working area to put in the foundation and such things, and came up to approximately 2,018 square feet of temporary disturbance, 919 or so of which will be permanent when the addition is complete. The work that's proposed, and thank you for going out to see the site, as you look at the front of the structure, the way this will work is it's going to be well, in fairness, a bit of a family operation. There's a large commercial landscape construction firm called Heimlich Landscaping Construction. Their senior operator, who I used to work with when I was a little smaller, is Robert Iannacci Sr. And so he will come over with Heimlich Landscaping, and we will live load and excavate the site, so there will be no stockpiling. We will first remove the existing portion to the right side of the house that's going to be replaced, walk the equipment in, reach right out with the excavator, work our way right out to the street, and live load into likely a 10-wheel dump truck as we go and be trucked right off site. The only thing that will be left there is enough to keep it safe, and the 10-foot distance around the house is intended to give room for laybacks of the slopes when you're putting the foundation and such things. As the work proceeds, the foundation will go in. The proposal is to immediately at that point come back in and backfill, and given that Mr. Iannacci Sr. works for Heimlich Landscaping, we're going to backfill and loam and seed almost immediately, and then tighten up with a closer row of erosion controls in around the building to give room to work. The framer is a local company that we're very familiar with called Clarence Weimer. They do quick work, which is good news. The laydown area for any materials that would be used for the addition itself would go in front of the house as you see it to the left of the driveway. So nothing would be placed in the back. It would be a pretty clean sequence of construction. Knowing it's a single-family house and it's not a large project, my full-time role is I'm in a professional capacity for another commission, so I still wanted to get some recharge in there. So you see two small recharge chambers that were calked out to capture the additional roof runoff. What we did is we calculated what's there now for runoff. We calculated what was going in with the new addition and took the nexus of the increase and put them into the recharge chambers, which are the two recharge chambers you see to the right of the building as you face it. Very straightforward structures, something we're all very familiar with. Should be a pretty straightforward project overall. A couple notes. What I did not note in the plan, because I typically like to do this with the commission or the administrator of your pleasure, is we're proposing to put in 3 Acer rubrums, which are red maples, and some high bush blueberry, just off that stone wall you saw in the back, down that lower level, to kind of beef up that buffer, if you will, between the lawn and the perennial river. As you were at the site, you saw a red maple tree to the right, in the back right corner. That was covered in vines. It was really windy on Friday night. The tree's a little bit smaller than it used to be.
Is that right?
So what you don't have on your plan is we're proposing to remove that tree, the rest of it. They have a little one now who's very cute and runs around, and another one on the way. So we'd like to remove that. I feel it's a hazard. I'm a certified arborist. And then we'll put in an additional red maple tree in to put that process back on that end as well. In a snapshot, I think that's the project. Is that consistent?
Yeah.
Okay. I would add that given the neighborhood, it's a very cozy neighborhood down there, and that Robert and Lauren know their neighbors quite well. The abutter notification was done by hand. We have the signature sheet for that. There was one house that is no longer occupied, so that was sent certified mail, return receipt requested, and we have the receipt for that went out as well.
Okay,
And I think that's a synopsis.
excellent. Very, very thorough. I appreciate that. All right, so then, let's go to the staff, please.
Okay. Okay, so as you can see from the plan, there's a few resource areas here. The brook is Long Meadow Brook, which is perennial and has a floodplain, but doesn't have an elevation, as you probably remember from some of the downstream filings we've had on Long Meadow Brook. So what they're showing is basically overlaid from a FEMA map. It's not based on an elevation, it's just a line. It probably makes sense when you go out to the lot. There's a fairly good drop-off there of, from the lot down into the wetlands. So reasonably certain that the project isn't in floodplain?
Is or is not?
It's not.
Is not, okay.
Hopefully, I don't know if you're pursuing a mortgage for this, your lender may possibly want more information on that, but certainly a certification from a land survey or something that it's not in the floodplain
Okay.
would probably be helpful if you're getting a loan. So there's riverfront area, obviously, as Tom said, inner riparian, floodplain, and then obviously buffer zone to the bank and to the bordering vegetated wetland. The bordering vegetated wetland, I would probably quibble with a couple of the flags. It's not consequential to this filing. I would probably put them more straight across right along the stone wall. There was an area where the flags bowed out and it was heavily sensitive fern, but once again, it really doesn't affect the project. So question, so the addition does not involve a garage?
Does not.
Okay, so the driveway is just this existing driveway, there's no new driveway, okay? That's basically it.
Okay. Then let's go to the commissioners. Ed?
The only thing I felt might be, especially when you're talking small children, you got the wall where it ends, maybe putting some small shrubs or some sort of growth going right across there.
Okay,
It kind of dress it up, at the same time gives you something to hold that bank back to.
okay.
That's it.
Okay, Jennifer?
It sounds like you planned everything out quite well.
We tried. Thank you.
Gail?
So from the new addition, the rooftop is going into your structures?
As you are looking at the plan, when you looked at the house to ridge line, you're looking at a roof that's slanted towards the driveway and towards the back. The new addition is going to be perpendicular on the end, so the new roof will now pitch to the right of the house as you face it and to the left. So the pitch that faces to the left is almost square foot to square foot exactly what was coming out beforehand, so that's going to go out the drown spout just like it did before. The pitch that goes to the right is the new square footage, and that will go into the galleys and be collected for recharge.
And so the downspout at the other end, so it's actually gonna be taking more water down because of the extra roof, right? So is there, does that go onto the lawn, is it?
Yes, ma'am, it goes out to the lawn and goes over landfill right now. There's no scour or anything of that sort, so I did check that when we were on the site. Seems to handle the flow rather well.
Right.
Okay, the addition, no foundation or
Full foundation on the addition.
foundation, okay. I have one question about the downspout then. Right now, there is a downspout sort of right in the back corner of that biggest square of the house.
Yes.
And now that's gonna be enclosed with a house. So where is that existing rooftop drainage gonna go?
It's gonna, that gutter on the backside of the house will have to be repitched to go to the far end, because right now it splits it, so it's gonna have to go down to the, it's your back left corner as you face it.
Okay.
You're looking from the front.
So none of that existing roof is gonna be added to the new roof runoff?
Correct.
Okay, I wanted to make sure you had sized those correctly and not just for the difference if some of the new roof was going into it. All right, good. No tree cutting is planned?
With the exception of that one red
That
maple
one-
we just spoke of.
One red maple?
Yep.
Okay, and you are gonna replace them, some you
Yes,
said, right?
correct, sir.
So that would constitute, that together with the infiltration, constitutes some riverfront improvements for this project. That's all I have. Is there anything else that we're going to need?
There's no DP number, right?
Pardon?
There's no number for this?
No, I checked today, there's still no DEP.
Okay, so Okay, well, we are not going to close tonight. We'll close at our next meeting, which is February 28th, and we'll see you then for hopefully a brief closing.
We are getting perhaps close to an event, so I will certainly be here. I'm not sure if the owners will be here as well.
Bring the kid, come on, we'd love to meet him.
I thank the commission for their
Probably
time.
a
Have a
smart
good
idea,
evening.
though.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let them have an immune system first. John, here goes.
Do we have to vote to continue?
Yeah, did you vote to continue? Thank you.
Oh, we
You
need
should
to,
vote, you need to vote to continue the hearing.
okay, can we have a motion to continue the hearing?
So moved. Second.
Okay, all in favor? That's 400. All right, we've made it official. Thank you.
So are there two, oh, there it is.
Okay, so all that is left here is a couple of items. Number one, we have a gentleman sitting here. You must be John Ramsdale. Hey, welcome, welcome. John has applied for the vacancy for the Conservation Commission, and welcome. Come on, have a seat. Hopefully, we didn't scare you away at tonight's meeting.
No.
Came to a short one.
Yeah, it was fairly short. More typical is closer to 9 o'clock than 8 o'clock. It's rare that we go to 10 o'clock, very rare. But we have understanding that the selectmen have officially advertised it now, so I don't know whether that will bring in more applications or not. And we normally don't get a deluge of applications when we have a vacancy, so we're happy to see you. Is there anything you'd like to say, or?
Any
Well, I should
questions?
just say, I've been a resident for 6 years here. I work at the MITRE Corporation, so I work very close by. I grew up doing a lot of stuff outside, and with one of my sons, he's an Eagle Scout, so we actually did a lot of projects in conservation land as a part of the service that you did for that sort of thing. So I've been doing that. I can't say that I've done a lot of this bureaucracy stuff of following all the rules and stuff like that, but I assume that's something that I could learn on the fly and contribute.
Well, I learned it entirely on the job as well. I retired from a completely different line of work and came into here because I was doing the same thing. I volunteered in the conservation area, doing some cleanup or something, and found the people interesting. So you can learn it on the fly. It does work. And there's certainly a great support staff here for you. I'm glad you came and watched the meeting, and we look forward to possibly working
Yeah,
with you.
I'm still psyched.
Okay.
There we go.
Didn't scare you away.
Didn't scare you away.
We have an administrative item here that the Public Lands Preservation Act is up for vote in the Senate, and we have an article, a letter that has been written to our Senator Cindy Friedman we show support from the Conservation Commission. So I will read it for the record here. Dear Senator Friedman, we are writing to communicate the support of the Burlington Conservation Commission for the Public Lands Preservation Act, a bill which would provide needed protection for our public parks, playgrounds, forests, and other natural resource land. The PLPA would stem the continual loss of public parks, conservation land, watersheds, and other natural resource lands as state agencies, cities, and towns divert the land to other uses, mostly for building projects. This bill would add transparency to land dispositions involving Article 97 land and would clarify the disposition process, providing efficiency and potential cost savings for municipalities. The bill would ensure that the integrity of Article 97 is upheld. The legislation is important to the Commission because Burlington has several Article 97 properties, the largest of which by far is the parcel known as the landlocked forest. The parcel is so named because of its location between Route 62, 3, and 128 in Burlington, and conservation land in Bedford and Lexington. Town meeting recently voted to change the zoning for this parcel to open space in an effort to strengthen its protection as a valuable resource. The Commission has seen repeated efforts over the years, even within the last month, to develop all or part of this resource. So it is vital for the community that this parcel be protected for its value in enhancing water quality, providing wildlife habitat, and for the benefits and therapy of passive recreation in a natural environment. The Burlington Conservation Commission is very much aware that you, Cindy Friedman, are a vocal proponent of the PLPA. We recognize that in the past, you made this legislation a priority. The commission certainly appreciates your past support and asks again if you would be a co-sponsor of this legislation. We also ask if you could reach out to your Senate colleagues and ask for their support as well. Best regards. So if we have agreement, we can vote to pass this on to Senator Friedman. Any questions or changes to it?
No.
Okay, all in favor of sending that forward under the commissioner's name? So moved. Okay, and was there anything else? Any planning board comments?
So planning board I'll certainly notify them about the decision on 24 Terry Ave,
Okay.
since they still have an open hearing on that.
Yep. All right. Subcommittee staff reports and updates. We're still pushing forward on the CPA and trying to prepare for a public meeting March 6th an informational meeting to give the public the opportunity to hear more about the Community Preservation Act, what it is, and the steps that we intend to take to get there. To get it approved requires a town meeting vote to put it on the ballot, and our suggested timeframe is town meeting in the spring of 2020, and the ballot would be the November election in 2020. So there's a lot of work to be done to get to that point, but this is a big step, this public meeting, to kind of get the word out and let the community know what it is we're doing and why we're doing it.
So the open space and recreation plan,
Yes.
the draft plan was submitted to the state, to the Department of Conservation Services, so they now have it for review. So we're getting very close to finalizing that.
Okay, and how often do we have to do?
7 years.
Every 7 years, so this would be for 2019, so the next would be,
Yeah.
Or is this
Well,
officially for
it may be the 2018.
okay.
I'm not sure exactly. Probably, the other one expired in 2018, so they'll call it the 2018 plan. So
Okay.
2025 again.
That seems like so far away.
It is.
It'll be here tomorrow, I'm sure. Okay, any other items? The next upcoming meetings are February 28th and March 14th. If that is all, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor? Bingo. One more to sign. And we have to sign, no, only the the chairman is signing that, chairman of the letter from the Conservation Commission, right? The commission is not signing, it's just the chair.
That's the way Larry set it up.
Yeah.
We'll have to forge
There's
it.
nothing to sign for the emergency thing, right?
No, that's just a ratification.
Just personal note, I did end up setting
Did we adjourn?
Yes.
uh,